Hello, welcome to Drinks with Ron. I'm Ron, and despite my camera's obvious shittiness, I will continue on. If you happen to watch the last episode leading into this one, you'll know we left off on a cliffhanger. So if you haven't seen it yet, go back, watch Drinks with Ron 220, and find out what we're talking about. I'll give you a few seconds to pause this. Okay, that's long enough. What happened is my record player is really shitty. Sometimes it works, most times it doesn't. And shortly before my last episode, after almost 2 or 3 weeks of not working, it just took off. So I had this sweet bottom that I've been anticipating for quite some time sitting on the platter, and we got to hear some. But the episode ended as side 1 ran out. The cliffhanger was, will it keep going when we flip it to side 2? So, I'm going to let you guess by that silence you hear that no, it didn't. But that was yesterday. So right as I was about to start this episode with the cliffhanger resolution, I was so frustrated by this thing that I cranked it up like a fucking Model T, and what do you know, my shitty motor decided to pick up and spin. So this is now a celebration episode. Sweet Bottom Side 2 coming at you. I didn't get a copyright violation, so that means this is obscure enough to hang out on Drinks with Ron with us. And I appreciate some obscurity in my music. That's what I appreciate so much. Oop. A little heavy on the bass. But I gotta tell you, I listened to a little bit of this, and it's kind of won me over. The bass player is badass. He reminds me a little bit of Claypool. I guess technically Claypool reminds me a little bit of him. But he's like super clean, like technically like prog rock guy. Just like, but he's still funky and good. And I hear a lot of Claypool isms in there, but less Claypool, just like dirty. Wow, wow. And yeah, that jives more with me. So, as much of a Claypool guy as I am, Mustachio McGee over here is killer. So, there's some solid shit later on side 2 of this album. I'm a little hyped up, as you may notice. A combination of old Milwaukee and 70s grooves from Milwaukee is just flowing through me. Additionally, I finally did bottle that rhubarb beer, and I got some on tap. It hasn't even been on 24 hours, so if you know anything about kegging beer, 48's like your bare minimum before you've got enough carbonation that you're not just drinking a flat beer. Well, I had to know what it's like at 20 hours, so I poured a little glass. You can probably kind of see there's a little bit of head at the top, just barely. So I think by this time tomorrow at 30 psi, give or take, the rhubarb will be on tap. And if you're over here, you know, let's drink it. I went with all Citra this year, but I have to go check my notes. The Citra came through really well, which is good, but I back-ended more of the hops, which means you're getting more of the bitter aspect out of it, where I should have pushed more of it towards the aroma phase, maybe the flavor, because it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to complain drinking this for the next however long I can manage to make it last, but the bitter gets right up on you. Marries well with the rhubarb, but Citra is obviously more of a citrus hop, so I was really kind of hoping that would come through more, but I need to shift where I put the hops in the boil. Yeah, it's a bitter, but it's good. Old Milwaukee. Still drinking it because it's still there. Still pushing Wisconsin beers. Because the whole thing like the shitty Wisconsin beer. I mean, that used to kind of be the perception. The Old Milwaukee, the Pabst, the Blatz, the Schlitz, the old style. Shit, I'm sure I'm missing 72 of them. Huber. Yeah. The reason those beers got kind of the shitty beer moniker was that they were everywhere. Like, I mean, the Schlitz rebuilt fucking Chicago after the fire. You still go down there now, you can find buildings where Schlitz is in the fucking brickwork. It's called the beer that made Milwaukee famous, because when the fire, they sent barrels of Schlitz down, and then they gave them cash to rebuild fucking buildings. I mean, Schlitz literally helped rebuild Chicago. It was that big. And Old Style, fuck, I've said it before on this show, they were third in volume nationwide, being like Miller and Bud forever. This tiny, dinky little brewery in La Crosse, Wisconsin was a national beer that was fucking everywhere, man. Well, shit, if you watch Midnight Madness from the late 70s, there's a Pabst brewery even in LA. So, I mean, hell, Pabst was huge. Old Style used to have the contract with the Cubs. Before it was, I'm a Cub man and a Bud fan, or the other way around, because I'm drunk. Because with Harry, that was the thing. He talked like that already, so you couldn't tell. Like, is he drunk, or is he just, Harry on a Tuesday? Because he always sounded half in the bag, but you could tell when you got to extra innings. That's when Harry really shined. Because, you see, he'd be drinking his Budweiser throughout the game. They were a sponsor. But he's timing himself up to the 9th inning. So he's thinking, hey, I'll be just about ready to hit the bar by the time we get into the pitch. And when it goes long, he's like, oh, well, give me another one, Steve. As Harry, he was a damn institution. I mean, he got fired by the Bush family, as in Anheuser-Busch, down in St. Louis. So when he gave the interview, Harry's giving the interview holding a Schlitz, because that was just like, hey guys, I got your Budweiser right here. But yeah, Harry was great. I mean, he'd do, 1 through 5, 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 5 on TV. And then he'd go do 6 and 7, or 5, 6, 7 on the AM side, and then he'd come back and do 8 and 9 on the TV side. And I would switch over to fucking 7:20 AM and listen to Harry call the game on AM while I had the TV on and turn the fucking sound. Well, turn the sound down back then, but it was yeah. And I used to think when I was a kid, you hear these legendary announcers, all their legendary calls, and you're like, oh wow, and like, fuck, we got Harry and Euchre, all right? They can keep Oh Doctor and all this other shit, man. Yeah. And then we got Brockmeyer, the fictitious announcer, and that's good enough for me right there. I love me some Brockmeyer. If you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. But as you can tell, the Sweet Bottom's kicking a little ass. But I'm going to wrap this one up because I ran out of Old Milwaukee. So as I'm getting close to my point, I'm just going to close it out, naming off a bunch of random 1990s Cubs bench players. Okay, here we go. Jose Vizcaíno, Mike Bilucky, Hector Villanueva, Doug DeCenzo, Domingo Ramos, Luis Salazar. Already said Doug DeCenzo. Dwight Smith, Jerome Walton, and that's Drinks with Ron.